more people the story of the great John Bowe. So let's go. G'day, everyone. My name's Craig Turton. Welcome to Mate at 8. You can call me Turts, okay? I'm the proud co-founder of a men's health foundation called 100 Words Mate to Mate. And what we try and do here at 100 Words Mate to Mate is try and reduce the stigma around men's mental health and also draw attention to the absolute shocking numbers that are around men's mental health in this country. 7 men every day take their own life in this country. That's far too much. It's twice the national road toll. Okay, if you're in the age group of 15 to 44 as a man in this country, okay, that's the biggest killer of men in this country between the age of 15 and 44 is themselves. Okay, it's a huge problem in this country, and it only getting worse because of the pandemic that we're all going through at the moment. Now, here, 100 Words Mate to Mate, we started a program about 29 weeks ago now called Mate to Mate at 8. And that's what this is about, okay? So no longer do you ring a mate and say, "G'day, mate, how you going?" Because he says, "Yeah, good. How are you?" And you say, "Good," and that's it. What we want you to do this. The rules of engagement are with Mate to Mate at 8 are, "G'day, mate, how's your day been out of 10?" Or, "G'day, mate, how's your week been out of 10?" So we're asking you how your day's been out of 10. The poll's up on the screen, so as you log on, fill out that poll, and we will get back to those results a little bit later on. Now, every week I say this, okay? I'm a house painter by trade, okay? I have paint everywhere all over me today, okay? I'm not a doctor, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. All we're trying to do here, 100 Words Mate to Mate, is show you how easy it is to have an open and honest conversation with your mate, starting with, "G'day, mate. How's your day been out of 10?" Or, "How's your week been out of 10?" It's very, very simple. Now, we've got a truckload of people jump on already, so thank you very much to those people. We've got people ranging from 10s down to 9s, 8s, 6s and 5s. Those people that are a 5, I guarantee you by the end of this conversation tonight, you will be a lot happier. This gentleman is an unbelievable human being, and I cannot wait to interview him tonight. Now, it'd be remiss of me not to mention this. At any stage tonight, if the conversation gets a little bit too much for you, okay, there is always a number to call. That number is this, 131114. That's the number for Lifeline. We hope you don't need it, but if you do, that is the number to call, okay? And someone will always be there to pick up and speak to you. Okay, now tonight, as I said, huge thanks to my friend Kylie, who introduced me to the great John Bowe. A couple of weeks ago, I rang John and we had a quick chat, and he was more than happy to come on. He's very, very good with his time. So tonight, as I said, we've gone to the top draw, Australian racing car royalty. Now, have a look at this. Listen to this for a few stats. This bio could have gone on for about a week and a half, and I've cut it down to this. He has had the most V8 supercar starts, 225. No one's driven a supercar more than this great man. He's won the Australian Drivers' Championship in 1984 and 85. He won the Touring Car Championships in 1995. He's won Bathurst with his co-driver Dickie Johnson in 1989 and 1994. He's the only man to win 4 Australian He's the only man to win Australian titles in 4 different categories. Okay, unbelievable. He's been inducted into the Supercar Hall of Fame in 2009. He's a Bathurst legend in 2017. He was CAM Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame in 2018. God, he's unbelievable. He's also how's this? This is the stat that blows me away the most. There's the great man, mate. I haven't finished with you. We could go on forever. How's this for a stat? He had 1,179 races and had 248 wins. He's the only man in the world, okay, to have a winning ratio of 1 in 5 over 1,000 races. He's an absolute ripper and a very, very funny bastard. I give you the great John Bowe. G'day, John. How are you, JB? JB,
Oh, I'm good. I'm good, mate. I am, honestly, though, like hearing, I'm not a stats character, but my friend Hamilton, who, I guess he's my pseudo manager, he does these stats compilation things, and it's, it's a bit embarrassing because I look towards tomorrow, not yesterday. So I guess, as I get older, I'll probably look back on it with more affection, but I find it when people talk about stuff like that, it's because the average guy that follows AFL or cricket or something, they don't know that much about motor racing. motor racing's a great sport, but it's not a frontline sport like cricket or AFL. So that's all I'm saying. Did that make sense?
That's true. But, mate, it is an absolute pleasure for me personally and all the people watching to speak to an absolute icon of this country. Now, mate, how's your day out of 10 been today?
Well, my day out of 10, it's interesting you think like that because it's a really good way to judge. I would have said it was a 6, but it's probably better than that. I went out to graze online. I did some little video thing with an old Holden that was built in 1965 in HD. I don't know whether any of your viewers know what an HD Holden is, but yeah. When I was a little kid, my dad used to sell them. He was a Holden salesman. And, you know, it was just like going back in time, you know, 3-speed on the column, bench seat. Just, it was a really great experience. So, you know, that took me through till about 2 o'clock. And then I came home and sat on the couch with my dog and did some emails. And my little dog is a new addition to my life. I've never had a dog before. You wouldn't realise a guy my age would not have ever had a dog, but I've never had a dog.
You're too busy in a bloody car, mate.
Yeah, probably too busy travelling, whatever. But he's just a beautiful little character, and he's, you know, he's added to my life for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you need to ask me how my day was at 10, John.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I mean, I was more self-absorbed as normally I am. But, yeah, how was your day?
I had an 8, mate. I had a really good day today. And a quick shout-out to my friend Melanie. I'll just leave it there. Melanie did an unbelievable thing today and helped a man who needed some severe help. And she did an amazing job. I know she's listening. I know she's getting her hair cut right now, and she will be embarrassed as all hell. But, Melanie, you are a bloody star, and I love you, and thank you for what you did today. So that made my day
fantastic.
At least an 8, and I knew I was catching up for you. So I am, as my old man used to say, I am tickety-boo. So
good on you, mate. Good on you.
Awesome. So, John, mate, where do you want to start? Like your career, I could have gone on for the next half an hour. Just now, we said we do this. Just show people you're in your office there. Just pan around. Okay, I know you're embarrassed. I know you don't like doing this. I'm going to make you do it. Just pan around and let's pay homage in the shrine that is the great John Bowe.
Well, I
know you're embarrassed. You need to do this.
I do. I mean, I call it my mini shrine. It's not like I actually set out to do this. It was just some friends, particularly girls, set this kind of thing, you know, and I just had a desk. And next thing I've got things to put, you know, trophies on, and I've got pictures of myself. So, I mean, I actually take the piss out of myself because it's actually funny, you know. I mean, I was driving along the Nepean Highway the other day and I thought to myself, when I die, what are my kids going to do with this stuff? They'll take it down the Brighton tip, probably.
We might auction it off tonight, John. We'll make a fortune.
We might. We could probably get a few bucks for, you know, some, you know, Beyond Blue or something like that. Anyway.
Beyond Blue, also 100 words mate to mate.
Okay, how about my good friend Brad Jones always used to say, I drove for Brad for like 5 or 6 years. We've been mates for a long time. He used to say, charity begins at home.
Absolutely.
So most of the money he collected, he kept for himself. That's
because you were probably bingling his cars and costing the poor bastard a fortune.
Yeah, I was. I did that occasionally, yes, for sure. It's part of the game. You know, you have accidents, and quite often people ask me if I've had some accidents. I've had some serious ones, but I've actually only broken my bones, any bones, twice in my life, but only about 4 or 5 years ago. So I've raced for, you know, 45 years and been very, very lucky, very fortunate, very fortunate.
Well, you don't crash when you're in front, mate, do you? There's no one to run into when
you're
in front.
Well, yeah, but I haven't always been in front, mate. I'm not a hero. I'm just a racer, and I love racing. And it's, luckily it's you know, taken me to all sorts of places, and I've met all sorts of people, great people, lovely people, and I still meet them. So it's important, but it's not, you know, my dad always, when I was a young boy and I started racing, my dad always used to tell me not to get a big head, you know, because you know, you're only, you know, you can only drive a car. It doesn't mean you can cure cancer or, you know, solve people's problems. So I've always tried to keep that in mind a bit, because, you know, it's just a sport. At the end of the day, you can get too ahead of yourself. So I see sportsmen, some of them are a bit egotistical, but, you know, I try not to be.
Mate, the numbers speak for themselves, mate. You only have to, you know, point to the stats and say, look what I did, and they speak for themselves. They're absolutely amazing. And
I might get a sandwich board and get the stats on there, and then I can walk up and down. Why
don't we get you a T-shirt printed? We'll get you a T-shirt printed with all of them. Yeah, but your bloody long T-shirt, though, that's the problem.
I might be able to just get a sandwich board, though, and then I could have a bucket and they could throw money, and then I could give it to you guys for your show.
I think that's a brilliant idea. Or we could take you and I will take this show all over the country. That's even better.
Yeah, we should. We should, actually.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, we should.
As I said to you last night, does that make me a co-driver, or do you want me to drive?
No. You just be the oracle. You can be the oracle.
The oracle.
Yeah, you're a good oracle.
I've been called a lot worse, John. I can assure you, by a lot of those people watching. Now, it would be remiss of us, John, to not mention the great Kylie, who is a mutual friend of ours, and that's how we got to do this interview tonight. She's an amazing woman who reached out to me, who I hadn't seen for some 28 years. She found me on Facebook, reached out, and I told her what we were doing, and she was, you know, she was so excited, and she said, "Look, friend of mine, JB," and when she said your name, I went, "You don't know John Bowe?" And she said, "I bloody do. I'll send you his number." And mate, we had a chat, and you've been nothing short of brilliant with your time. And as I said, it's a real pleasure and a real honour for me.
I want to say shout out to Kylie. Kylie's a great girl, and I met her. I was having a operation on my finger. My finger had this weird, you know, contraction thing that you see people have. I don't know whether you can see it. And I had this operation where she works, and, you know, I met her at reception when I was coming out, and she's terrific. Then I met her at the Grand Prix. She's just a really nice girl, and she does a lot of good stuff. You know, she's a good person, and that's good.
Yeah, she does a lot of good for a lot of people, and you're right. Yeah. She's an absolute A1, and so big shout out to Kylie. She'll be wrapped that we mentioned her, and good on you, buddy. Thank you so much. Now, mate, your career spans over such a long time. Tell us a bit. What were the highlights for you? Is it Bathurst? What is it? What are the major highlights for you?
Well, I mean, really, when you're doing it, and I guess I still race quite a lot in Touring Car Masters, so it's not like it's over, but It's just not the same. It's not as serious when you're racing in, say, Supercars, or as it was before that, the Australian Touring Car Championship. You live or die by your last performance. It's a very intense life, really. Intense in terms of its demands on your performance is pretty heavy. Yeah. So, you know, at the time, you just deal with it. You know, you deal with it. Next race meeting, you deal with it, whether it's good or bad, you just deal with it. And it's only later, you know, like now, say, or, you know, 5 years ago, whatever, I look back on things and think, gee, that was good, that was important, that was, you know, we did well. Or, you know, I've always remembered that motor racing's a team. It's not just the driver. The driver gets most of the accolades, but the team that put the car together, that run the strategies in those particularly supercar type races like Bathurst and stuff like that, you know, it's about having the right people around you. And there are times in my life when I've had the right people around me, which has been fantastic. And there are times in my life when I haven't had the right people around me. So it's frustrating, but, you know, to be able to experience all of that is, you know, I guess, you know, when you stop to think about it, which most mostly don't.
Yeah.
But when I stop to think about it, if you ask me a question about it, I think, how lucky have I been? You know, I've done what I loved as a child until I'm this ripe old age, you know, like I've actually, you know, managed to do what I love. So
How old were you when you went, you know what, that's what I want to do? Were you
not really. I don't think I don't think I ever said that really. I grew up in a motor racing family. My dad was a racer in Tasmania, which was, you know, quite remote then really. And I always, you know, we went to racetracks and as a family, and my dad had his little race car and it was always in the garage, and us kids used to play on the trailer. You know, he had an open trailer, which a lot of people have. We used to have our dinky toys. We'd race them down the trailer. Like, it was just, I don't know, it was a weird inevitability, you know, because I got to like 15. I had a bit of an incident. I was driving around without a license in my Volkswagen. Am I allowed to tell this story? It's not bad, but it's...
They can't book you now. Go for it.
Okay, right. So I was driving around. I had a Volkswagen. I bought this Volkswagen. I used to work after school at a Volkswagen dealership, which in those days was a garage, really. And I bought this 1955 Volkswagen for $90. And I was going to high school in year 10, and I worked at this place after school. So I left the car down there, and overnight I used to sneak out, ride my bike down there and, you know, drive around the car, because roads weren't like they are now. There wasn't a massive population and the loonies out there. So we used to drive around, and one Saturday night, my mate and I went to a blue light disco. Did you ever have blue light discos?
Yes, I did, John. I went to a couple in my time,
yeah.
Yes.
So we went. I drove in my little Beetle, and I had a few dances with girls, and I persuaded a girl that I'd like to give her a ride home. She thought I was older because I had a car. So I've taken her for a ride, you know, drive her home, and we ran out of petrol because they had no fuel gauges, those VWs. They were like a dip in the tank. I'll have a look and see how much fuel was in it. So
how romantic.
I know. I am. And we went up this street in Devonport called Old Acre Street. I ran out of petrol, pulled over to the side of the road. I managed to persuade her to hop in the back seat for a bit of a cuddle. And the battery in a Beetle was under the back seat, and it didn't have a cover on it, so it shorted out the springs. So the back seat caught fire. So it had flames. This is serious. And I don't think you should jest about it. And
sorry,
there's flames coming out underneath the front of the seat. So I pushed the front seat away, and she hopped out and stormed off up the road. So that was like the hot moment didn't become hot except for on my legs. And my dad found out about it, and he said, look, if you're going to behave like an idiot, let's get a race car, so at least you can do it. You're all going the same way and all that. So, you know, it actually turned into a positive for me as a 15-year-old. So yeah. So
that's crazy, where it started.
And you know that girl, her name was Christine. She never spoke to me again.
I can't imagine why.
Me either. I was
Look what you missed out on, John. Look what
I know.
And Christine, if you're watching, bad choice. We all make bad choices.
I wonder if
sliding door moment with Christine.
Yeah, how funny.
Now, mate, you've had so many highs through it, and you know, and they're endless. They are endless, and you're still driving today. But there's been plenty of times where it's been really, really hard, hasn't it?
Yes, certainly. You know, in your topic, I think, to be honest, from my very early age, as in, you know, mid to late teens, I was predisposed to depression. Yep. Looking back on it, very susceptible to things that knocked me down. But in 2007, 2006, late 2006, I decided I would do one more year of supercars, which was my life, really. I'd raced in the Australian Touring Car Championship from 86 until 2007. And I just, you know, when you get older, you know, like particularly journalists, very easy to write you off. You know, they call you veterans, and you hate. I hate being called a veteran even now, and I am a veteran. But so I sort of sunk slightly, and slowly over time, I sunk into depression. So I was going to the races every 2-3 weeks. You have, you know, particularly in a supercar world, you have a lot of interaction with people and sponsors, and you know, it's quite busy, even though when you're not driving, it's busy. And I felt like I was going away to act. I hated the thought of going away. Yep. I couldn't, essentially, when I was at home, I couldn't get out of bed. It was just like an absolutely terrifying experience. And at times, I sat in this office. I still lived here. I lived here then. And I would think mid-afternoon, I'd have these massively low thoughts, and I genuinely thought about taking my life. So, and then say a week later, I'd have to go and pretend that I was okay. I felt that I had to pretend that I was okay. Yep. I had to pretend that I was healthy and I was happy JB, and, you know, that I was loving my last year of supercar racing. But I wasn't, you know, I was absolutely hating it. And so when the year finished, I remember sitting on the grid for the last race, and I had tears rolling down my cheeks. You know, you got helmets and all that stuff on. And they had a great big board, you know, like the AFL guys run through those things, big banner thing. And it was really nice, but it was like not enjoyable to me. So not long after that, I went, because I was worried about the reason it stopped. Let me divert slightly. The reason I stopped I didn't stop the thoughts, but the reason I didn't take my own life was because I've got 3 boys, twins and another younger guy. And I thought, if I do this, they're going to really be disappointed in me. So I then went to see a psychiatrist, and then I got some medication, and then I, you know, started to see a psychologist, and slowly I got better, you know. And I mean, I wouldn't say now that I'm 100%, but I'm certainly functional well and truly. And I take antidepressants as medication now still, because I'm not going not to, you know. Like, I think if I ever lapse back, it's the worst thing ever. And I know a lot of people go through it. And all I can say is a message, and I say it to lots of people because I meet lots of people that come and share with me, that you have to seek some help. You can't just deal with it. You can't deal with it. And your partner, whoever it is, your girlfriend, wife, man, partner, girl, partner, whatever, they don't get it unless they have suffered from depression. They don't get it. They can't understand it. And there's nothing wrong with them. They just can't understand it.
So would it be fair to say that when you're in the car racing, was that a place where you just didn't think about your worries? That was,
yes,
you turned into John Bowe, not only John Bowe. So there was a John Bowe outside the car, and there was a John Bowe inside the car. That was just a happy place to be, where those thoughts weren't.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a happy place. I mean, it wasn't a good year. The car I didn't think was great. I had some nice people around me and some were quite gifted, you know, but the car, I found out later, wasn't what I'd been told it was, which is a fair bit of bullshit goes on in motorsport, as in most parts of life. But yes, definitely, you know, you'd sit in the car, you'd be ready to go for a practice session. They'd all be lined up outside the garage, which they still do now. And your whole thought process would change to, you know, the driving and the making the car perform better and things like that. So it was quite It was very, very difficult, I got to say. And if you didn't do that well, and I didn't do that well in that year, it was just like shattering, you know, like it was, because you're so fragile, you know, you need you need an uplift, and you don't get an uplift because you're depressed. Depression is a, you know, it's a chemical thing in your brain. So it's not like you can turn it off, because you can't.
How much of an impact did the acting and the constant putting on a front, because you're known in the game as this, you know, people loving, you know, lots of fun to be around. Everyone knows who you are. How tiring was that, and living that fake world? And how long did you do that for?
Well, I did it for probably the 6 months prior to 2007, and then the whole year of 2007. At the same time, I was going through like a marriage trauma, which ultimately became a breakup. So you got lots of layers of things going wrong in your life.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's just, you just sink. It's just terrible. My ex-wife, Alice, who's a terrific girl. I mean, she was very good, very helpful to me later in coming through it. But you got to take some action. You know, you got to do something. You can't just, you know, I'm glad I did take action, and whether I need to take antidepressants now, I'm not sure, but I just am not game not to, because there's no way in God's earth I want to go back there.
So that's interesting, is it? Because you know that you're not, you need to take them as a safety net, don't you?
Yeah, it's a safety net, I guess, yes. It's funny because, you know, like antidepressants are a bit like oil for a car. You know, this oil suits this one, and this oil suits that one, and so on. And I had a few different ones, because I don't know how many, but there's literally hundreds of them. And they all suit different people. So it took a while to get to the right one. Some of them, you know, can be very detrimental to you.
Yeah.
Hence the feelings, you know, later on in the afternoon I used to get, you know, it was like you could almost set your clock by it. 3 o'clock, you'd feel this like, whoa, sinking, terrible, you know, negativity. And so, but eventually I found, I had a friend who's a doctor, and he sent me to a psychiatrist that I've been to several since. And if I feel like I'm really sinking again, which you can, I go and see someone. You know, I do go and see someone, because you can't let it get hold of you. Like, it gets hold of you like a disease. And I guess it is a disease, isn't it? I don't know.
Was it, when you first realised that it was happening, were you scared? And those thoughts about taking your own life, how often were they? Were they almost daily, or?
Not daily, but, you know, several days. At the depths of your despair, the pain you feel within yourself about whatever life is so painful that you think the only way I'm going to get out of this is just to kill myself. You know, like it's awful. And I know the stats that you've told tonight, but I know them anyway. Yeah. And it's just awful. And you know, it's difficult to be able to make a difference. Like, I want to make a difference, and obviously you blokes want to make a difference. But, you know, people have to want to accept the fact that people want to make a difference. You know, they need to watch you, and they need to probably listen to me. You know, I have lots of people around the country. When I decided to say that I was in this state, which was, I think, probably 2010 or thereabouts, I did some interviews, and I did it on the ABC and the Murdoch papers and things like that. And ever since then, I've had people say to me, I'm not an evangelist. I don't want everybody to think I am, but I've had people say to me that, you know, I'm really glad you said this, because I suffer from it. And so I try and encourage them just to seek some help, do something, take some action.
How hard was it to come out in a male-dominated sport, a macho sport, a really fucking hard, tough sport, to come out as one of the leading people in the industry and say that you're struggling with mental health issues? What was in the park? How was that accepted with your co-driver?
First of all, the people I competed with, as in the other drivers,
Yep.
I didn't care about, because I don't care about them. You know, they're competitors, so they weren't. I had, in my racing time as a professional, I had very few friends, and the few friends that I had then are still my friends.
Yep.
So I didn't really care. I don't know what made me do it, to be honest, mate. I just felt that it was so important that somebody said something, and the message I send is not. I'm like, no, like people like Jeff Kennett. I mean, they've done amazing things for mental health, but I just felt that I needed to say that I'd suffered, you know, and I still suffered to some degree, so that you can get through it. The message was that if you seek some help somewhere, first thing you do is you go to your GP, and then, you know, you go from there. But you got to do something. You can't just sink, because you sink and you sink further. It's like having a couple of anvils on your ankles and they throw you in the Yarra. It's just, you just never get above it.
Did you cop any backlash from anyone when you came out? Being such a hard sport, and we're going back. These are, a lot of these guys you drove with and against are older guys who are a bit old school. I don't like using that term, but they're old school.
Well, some of them were. I mean, like there was. I mean, I drove for Dick Johnson for 11 years, and he's still my friend. I mean, him and I never talk about mental health because he's old school, so he doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I can't remember any backlash, to be honest. Maybe I was just oblivious to it, but I just felt that I had to say something, and because within my heart I know that my mum was predisposed to depression, so it's obviously in my gene pool, and I know, I look back to my late teens, my early 20s, I was, like a roller coaster. So, and I used to, I mean, back in those days, I mean, I don't hide it. I took antidepressant stuff then, but it was, I forget what the name of it was, but it used to just zonk you out. I can't remember what it was called. But we're now, I mean, antidepressant meds now are actually okay. They don't make you weird. They don't make you go into your eyes are wide open, but there's no one home sort of thing. Yeah. So I'm not just saying that antidepressants are the answer, but they're the answer for some people. Exercise is the answer for some people. Like if I go and exercise, which I've got to say, if you saw my waistline now, you would say that I've been a bit lax on it. But exercise is fantastic. If I go and exercise, I feel great.
Yeah.
And it helps you lift your spirit. So there's various ways to, deal with it. And everybody's different, but you've got to deal with it. You've got to do something. But what that be is, as I say, is the first thing you do is go to your GP. And if your GP doesn't get it, some don't. I mean, GPs are just like mechanics, there's good and bad. If they don't get it, go to another one. Someone has to understand what it's like, and then you have to take some action. So whether that be antidepressants, exercise, Buddhism, counselling, whatever, there's lots of different things that can help you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In the depths of despair, you're having thoughts about it. Did you ever attempt to take your own life?
No, I didn't, because I had this thought about my boys. But when seriously, you're a very good prober. In my younger days, in the mid-'80s, I had, a girlfriend I lived in Tassie. I grew up in Tassie, and I had a girlfriend who gave me a bit of grief, you know, whether I deserved it or not is anybody's guess. And I got really down the dumps, and I went into my garage once and I started the car up and I left it running and sat in the car, and I was about to, you know, end it. So that's, you know, that all that tells me is that, you know, it's in my system somewhere, and, you know, and it's not in everybody's system like that. Some people get down and end up with depression, anxiety because of situations in their life, you know, their job loss or a marriage breakup or whatever. You know, there's lots of different reasons. But, you know, if you take some action, you can come out of it. I'm sure I'm predisposed to it. So that's why I'm very conscious of not stopping the antidepressants, you know.
Is that easier to sort of cope in your own head, to go, okay, so your mother was predisposed to it, therefore it's, you know, it's a chemical imbalance, as you mentioned before. So does that make it easier to grapple with? Does it make it easier to accept?
Not really. It is what it is, you know. I mean, we're talking like this is almost 13 years that I've been taking antidepressants. You know, I take it in the morning, I get out of bed, it's my first thing I do. You know, I have a shower and then I get on with my day, whatever that may be. But no, it doesn't really. I mean, I accept it, the fact that it is what it is. I'm glad that I'm still here. I've still got the three boys. They've now, two of them have got grandchildren now. So, you know, the COVID thing has been really difficult. I mean, it's been way more difficult for some people than me, but it's still difficult because I haven't been able to do what I love. And I love going to the racetrack. I love hanging out with racing people, car people. So I haven't been able to do any of that. And that's, you know, that's my spirit. You know, I love it. So, you know, I feel like I'm glad in some ways, and sometimes I'm pissed off with the world, you know.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people go through that roller coaster every day. And it's hard, mate, because your boys, how many of them live overseas?
Well, two used to live in America. One's just come back with his two little boys.
Yeah.
He worked, it's funny because, I mean, you can tell I'm no intellectual, but the three of them are all computer scientists. And I'm so proud of them because they were all students. They were, you know, diligent. They did so well. And I was off, you know, being a racing driver, you know. So honestly, it's just, I'm so proud of them. And he just came back because he didn't want to bring, his eldest boy, Marcus, is about to go to high school, and they didn't want him to go to high school in America because America's in not a good state. So they've just moved back to Australia. They landed in Sydney last week. They're in quarantine. My youngest son, Alex, is in San Francisco, basically housebound, but he works for a company called Cruise, which is owned by General Motors, and they're developing driverless cars. They've actually got cars that drive around San Francisco without drivers. And let's
hope they don't bring that into touring car, because that's going to be shit boring.
No, but I tell you what, that would be good for me because I hate driving around the city. And I'll be able to sit in the back and just tell the car to go somewhere.
Are you a backseat driver, John? Do you, when you go out and about, do you like to drive?
No, I don't like it. No. I don't. I like driving, but I don't. You know, city driving does nothing for me.
Yeah.
You know,
do you ever get to the lights and some smart ass pulls up next to you and go, mate, do you know who I am? Do you seriously want to go there?
I get that, but I don't. You know, I don't engage because it's bullshit. It's just bullshit. Anyway,
I can just imagine.
I wanted to say about my last, in case my kids watch this, I wanted to, my eldest twin is James, and he lives out at Macedon, and he's got two little girls. So James and Nikki are twins, and they're identical twins, right? So they were born, they look the same, they act the same, slightly different, of course, but James has got two little girls and Nikki's got two little boys. So how bizarre is that?
Bizarre.
And we haven't had girls in my side of the family for like 100 years. So
do you love being a grandparent? What do they call you? Or grandpa?
I do. What do they call you? Well, I struggled with it for the first year or two, because I thought I was in denial about getting older, but I do. I love them. They're beautiful. Kids are fantastic. Yeah.
How much of your openness now and your rawness, which you've been tonight, how much do you think that helps other people?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I'm not equipped to judge it, but what I do know is a lot of people, and I'm saying a lot, I don't know how many people, but a lot of people over time, with social media, with messages on Facebook, and with human interaction at race meetings, which we haven't done for 6 months, a lot of people come to me and say things about, I appreciate you saying it. It's good to know that somebody like you, and when I'm just a normal bloke. So, if you can actually, I'm sure you guys get more of this than me, but if you can actually change something and make a difference, it's very, it's fulfilling. It's very fulfilling.
It'd be very empowering. And I know we've had plenty of people, and I inevitably get a phone call or an email either directly after the show or in the next couple of days saying something that someone has said has triggered something in them. The big thing that I don't know how you go now because you're obviously not racing as much. The big thing we hear every week is conversation, structure, and routine. How important? Obviously, you're an unbelievable storyteller and conversationalist, so that's not an issy for you. And obviously,
that's very sweet of you, mate. And you're a very attractive man yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you got my notes. But the routine and structure for you, how important is that? Since you've been out of the game full time, how important is routine and structure for you?
Very, very. And this COVID stuff has completely blown it out of the water. I mean, I find it very unmotivating. The fact that we got a little tiny bit of good news yesterday was quite uplifting to me. Yep. And, it's difficult because as a professional, I got up in the morning early. I went to the gym. I did training. I did this. Then I went and rode my bike. And, I don't even like exercise, to be honest. But I did it because, I needed to. So as I mentioned earlier, I've spread into middle age, but I'm hoping to get rid of it a bit, and we've got tonight, I got a message from one of the guys at Australian Racing Group who's running our category and a few other categories next year, and he gave me some dates. So it's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I know I'm no spring chicken, but I love racing. I love it. I love going. Don't just love the driving. I love the driving, of course, yeah. But I love the people, not every single person, but just hanging out with people, yeah. It's special. And I've been doing it since I was a child. So I can't see myself not doing it. This 6 months has been terrible.
I think one of the beauties of you, mate, is people are drawn to you for your driving and your skills that you show there, but they're also drawn to you now because of you're a leader in your industry and talking about mental health and being, breaking down the barriers and stigma. That's the thing. That's the key, mate. And that's, apart from the legacy you're going to leave behind the wheel and on the track, that's the stuff that you're going to leave. Now, talking about your weight, mate, you did spend I'll mention her name so you can ring her afterwards. She's dobbed right in here. Jackie Carroll. Sorry, Jackie. If you didn't
Jackie, yes. Jackie's awesome. She's awesome.
Oh, you might not think that. She says to me here, JB, missing you up here in Bendigo. Hope you're doing well. The team are all missing you. How's your fitness going? Well, Jackie, I think we might have just answered that.
Jack, you don't be too harsh on me. No, I've still been doing some stuff. It's not the same. Like if you go, okay, January or February, I used to do this, the 12-hour, Bathurst 12-hour. You need to be really fit for the Bathurst 12-hour. You do double stints in a hot car, And, you know, it's hard work. So it makes you do it because you don't, first of all, you don't look like a dickhead and collapse out of the car. And secondly, you don't have a heart attack or whatever, you know, so it's not a good look. So, you know, I'm so hopeful that we'll get out of all this. We'll start having race meetings again. And, you know, I mean, I guess I'm at a retiring age, you know, for a racing driver, but I've got no interest in retiring as long as I can manage it. You know, I love it. And my friends love it. And Jackie and Gary, you know, Gary O'Brien, who's in Bendigo, he's got a business there called Bendigo Retro Muscle Cars. He built that car that I raced. Like, he built it.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
so he still looks after it. It's his love, you know, like it's his. If he could take it to bed with him, I'm sure he would. Sorry, Jackie, but
hey, mate, we've got another one here from a good mate of mine, Russell, he's massive into the sim car racing. He says you should have a look at the sim car racing to scratch that itch of yours, particularly through COVID. Have you ever done the sim car racing?
No, I haven't. One of my friends, Peter Ellenbogen, who's a fantastic motorsport photographer, he's right into it.
Yep.
And obviously during the you know, mid part of this year, there was no racing. So Supercars had sim stuff and whatever. But I mean, I think I'm a bit before sim racing, you know. I've had a go at it a few times. My friend Joe's got a sim, and
yep.
I have a go at it. And it's a funny story. We went about 5 years ago, I guess. We went to Goodwood, which is a really big race meeting in England, in Sussex. It's called the Goodwood Revival. So it's old cars, old race cars. People dress up in period costume. It's got this most fantastic atmosphere. And lots of people that love racing go there. And I thought I'd go around to Joe's place and do a few laps at Goodwood in the sim to, you know, make sure I understood it. So every corner I crashed on. Like, I was like a nightmare.
Sounds like
I was a nightmare. When I got there, one of the guys, an Aussie guy, he loaned me his push bike, and I rode around the track in the push bike, and I had no trouble learning the track. But on the sim, so I think it's a generational thing, you know, to be honest. And to do it really well, I probably haven't got the dedication to spend doing it really well. But I get people to do it. I think it's fantastic.
I reckon there's a little fundraiser there. Have a crack at taking on John Bowe on the sim racing. I'm going to talk to my friend Russell tomorrow, and we might do something about that. Now, I've got another...
Yeah, but I mean, I have to look like a fool. And I mean, I know, you know, I can look like a fool easily, but I'm not sure that I want to look like a fool when someone's flogging me in a sim race.
Just drive into them, mate. You don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
Just bang. It's old school, mate. Old school.
Like
Until they come back around, just bang. You'll be fine. Now, we've got another question here from one of our avid listeners. He watches most week. Good mate of mine, Aaron. How much did the stress of the job contribute to you hitting an all-time low in 2010? And was there any other contributing things that happened? You talked about... no, that was 2000... Yeah, that was 2007.
2007, yeah. Okay, it's an interesting question. As you get older, as I got older, I felt like the media were concentrating on me as a veteran, and I didn't want to be called a veteran. I felt I was quite current. So that put pressure on me.
Did that piss
and
you
then,
off?
Yeah, it did, yeah. And then, you know, my performances were not what I expected of myself. You know, my desire to do well. I mean, I'd done well for quite a long time, and I wasn't being where I expected myself to be. So that was also pressure. And now, you know, I can say now, whether it's true or not, that I felt the car probably wasn't up to it, and, you know, whatever. But you know, it's easy to make excuses. So I just, it all contributed to my sinking. And it's like this sinking like this. It's not like you go like whoop into a canyon where like the Roadrunner where you just walk off a cliff. It's a slow decline, and eventually you realise, whether you realise or you don't realise, that you're actually depressed, you know. I mean, I know mental health is more than depression, but my experience is mostly depression. I have a little smidge of anxiety, but I think most people have anxiety. I mean, I have a bit of anxiety, you know, talking to you tonight because I don't know what to expect. So, you know, I think there's healthy anxiety and there's unhealthy anxiety.
Yeah. When you feel as though you're coming down like this, have you got the ability now to sort of stop and level out versus just plummeting to the bottom?
Yes, I think so. But you've got to remember, I take antidepressants, and antidepressants stop you from dipping out. They don't make you. They're not happy pills, you know. They don't make you happy. They don't go, wow, you know. I think probably I've never done it, but I think cocaine makes you happy until you stop taking it. So this is, you know, these are just slightly leveling. They help you deal with. I couldn't deal with anything at the time. I couldn't deal with anything, not a thing. I couldn't think clearly. So when I started with antidepressants, I could then think clearly. You know, I could think about what I would do with my life, how I'd go about it. I had some very solid people that said to me, look, you know, if you want to keep racing, we'll help you. You know, like it was very, very important at the time. I was going
to say, how important was that to you?
Oh, I love these people. I love them. I still know them. I still, you know, talk to them. I tell you, they save your life. They saved my life. You know, so that's not something to say lightly, that somebody saved your life. And doing the Touring Car Masters stuff with Gary and Jackie, and there's a few guys up there in Bendigo that come along and help out, and they just, you know, great blokes. So I'm not looking to be a star. Like, arguably, I was a star once. So I'm not looking to do that. I just love doing it. You know, we go and we enjoy it and we do our best and we try our hardest, because I'm brain trained to try my hardest. So, and it's just, you know, I love it. I don't want to stop. Now, do I have to stop? Who knows? Who knows?
Got a great question here, or a response from a dear friend of mine, Robin Ballard, who is part of the team, our psychological team here at 100 Words Mate to Mate. And she just said, thank you so much for mentioning, let me put my glasses on. Thank you so much for mentioning the GP and getting a mental health plan done. It's such an important thing. I've had one done myself. It takes no time at all. It's not intrusive. It's such an important place to start. And once you've made the effort to make the appointment and go and do it, that's the first step to getting better. And
absolutely. I mean, even in this, you know, this time, like I raced I race normally every year, you know, for the last 100 years, not exactly, but I've raced probably a dozen to 15 times, sometimes 20 race meetings a year. So it consumes my life, you know, it keeps my brain busy, and you know, getting sponsorship and things like that is time consuming. But this year I raced in Adelaide for the first round of the Touring Car Masters. Then I raced in Phillip Island the week later in one of my friend's old historic race cars, and another friend who's got an ex-Jack Brabham car. So I love all that stuff. You know, it's history. I know all about history. I grew up in it.
You created it.
Yeah.
You created the history.
I don't know about it created, but I grew up in, you know, I got Jack Brabham's autograph when I was like 7 years old, you know. I got lost at Longford and his mother took me back to my parents, you know. I mean, it's, you know, it's a long story. So I really felt the loss of racing. We went to the Grand Prix to do some demos in this car of my friend's. My friend Joe Collegia's got an old 1952 sports car that was raced in the time by Carroll Shelby. Carroll Shelby Cobra and, you know, Shelby Mustangs, and as famous as they get in American racing. And we were sitting there on the grid ready to do some demos, only demos, and it was all cancelled. So ever since then, I slowly, you know, I wouldn't say I got depressed, because antidepressants stop you really getting depressed, but I got really down the dumps. And so I rang my doctor, I got a health plan, I went to, and by that stage, no one was allowed to, you know, go to psychologists or anything. And I had, you know, meetings on, not Zoom, but
Teams.
Yeah, you know, WhatsApp or whatever. Yeah, and with this psychologist who's terrific. I mean, she's great. She gets me. She understands. You know, I panicked about not racing. I panicked about, you know, what I was going to do if I couldn't race again. You know, and it was terrific. So all I'm saying, I mean, I'm no genius, as you can clearly see, but you just got to take some action. When I raced for Dick Johnson, there was a guy, and anybody that knows racing would know these guys, Stone Brothers.
Yep.
They had a team, and they eventually won the championship with Marcus Ambrose. Well, they worked for Dick Johnson before that. And Ross Stone always had this saying, you got to take the bull by the horns, you know, you got to take the bull by the horns. So
yeah,
you just do. You just do. You got to do something. Yeah.
Two more from me, mate. I'd imagine over your journey, talking about men's mental health now in 2020 versus when you started, you know, all the way back there, you would have seen such a huge change. It would be so much easier to talk about now than back in the day, where it was just, as I said before, just hard school and show no weakness.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I said earlier about the 80s, I went through this bad period. I used to go and see this doctor in Latrobe. My dad had a little car business, so I worked in there. Basically, I was a car salesman. You know, we sold Mazdas and BMWs, but in a little town, so it wasn't very big. And I used to go and see this guy, doctor. His name was Alex Badisco. Great bloke, terrific bloke. In hindsight, he wasn't probably that much older than me, but he was a doctor. And I remember, you know, going over there and saying, like, I feel like terrible. I'm so down the dumps. And I remember the drug now they gave you, it was called Serapex. And it just zonked you out, you know, like you couldn't function. You could not function. So you didn't take it. So now there's so much clever stuff around. I sound like a drug seller, but all I'm saying is that it is an alternative sometimes. And if you're really bad, you got to do something.
Yeah. So what are some tips you can leave people with? You talked about your fitness before, that you get out. Is there anything else, just basic tips that guys and women can use on a day-to-day? We've talked about structure and routine and how important that is. We've talked about fitness. Is there anything else?
Not really. I think you need to deal with what's going on. So if you feel bad, and everyone knows when they feel bad, and if you feel bad more than a few days at a time, you need to do something. You need to actually go to your GP and go and say, look, I feel crap. You know, I've got this terrible mood. I'm low, I'm whatever. Some GPs will do something straight away. Some will send you away somewhere, you know, but you need to do something. That's all. You can't just sit at home, because nothing will get better sitting at home. That's all. Watching TV is not the solution.
No, exactly.
No.
Now, your friend Michael sent him. Now, we could end up going for 3 hours if you answer.
This is Michael from Canberra.
Oh, I don't know where he's from, mate, but it's Michael. And he said, mate, tell the story of your ex-wife selling historical gear like your Bathurst Top Gun jacket. That had to be enough to make anyone depressed. Michael, you just open up a bloody can of worms.
I know who it is, mate. I know who it is. it's a funny story. I mean, it's nothing to do with depression, but the mum of my kids, and I have great respect for her because the kids are terrific, so there's no drama. But when we separated, which was in 1990, I moved out and I gave her the house, the car, the furniture. So I was like, I had my shirts and a couple of ties and a suit, So anyway, later on, this is years later, Michael goes, I've just been offered on eBay or looked on eBay for this Tui's Top Gun jacket. So when we won Bathurst in 1989, Dick and I, it was sponsored by Tui's beer. We were given this, it was like a bomber jacket, a top, and it had Tui's Top Gun on it. It was like quite at the time, we're talking 1989.
Very fashionable.
Quite a bit of a trendy thing. And he said, I've got this thing on eBay that's Tui's Top Gun jacket that was John Bowe's. And I go, really? Because I'd lost track of it. I'd left 3/4 of my clothes and everything. And I said, who was it? Who had it on eBay? He said, someone called Christine. I said, yep, that's mine. So he bought it and he still got it.
Oh, God.
So,
mate, I could talk to you for the next... We said this yesterday. We could talk and run a bloody 6-week mini-series. Mate, you've been an absolute pleasure to talk to. Real thrill for me personally. You're so
mate.
open and honest. And it's blokes like you, mate, leaders in your industry that come on to little shows like ours and talk so open and honestly. It just empowers men out there to get off their ass and do something.
Listen, mate, I tell you now, if you're interested and if other people are interested, you can quite happily share my email, my phone number, whatever. I like to help. I actually like to help. Not that I'm trained to help, but I like to help. So if you want to do that, I'm happy for it. If I get 50 calls a week, I'm happy with that. So it doesn't matter. I'm just, I know what it's like. I know how terribly damaging it can be to your life, to your family, to everything. So if I can do something, I'm not trying to be a saint because I ain't a saint, I can tell you now. And there's many people that would
clarify that.
Clarify that. Yeah, I was trying to think of the right word.
Mate, that's an extremely generous offer, and I guarantee you my phone will start ringing in about 3 minutes' time.
So let's do it. Let's do it again in 6 months' time or something, because I've got, more than enough life experiences to do some different stuff. So let's do it again, because you guys are awesome. I mean, I think this is, doing this, I imagine you don't make any money out of it. It's not
No. We're a non-for-profit organisation.
No, it's just fantastic. It's like guys like you should be knighted.
No. It's guys like you, mate. Guys like you make the difference, and just encourage little guys like me and the whole board of 100 Words. I know they're watching, and on behalf of them and myself, mate, and Waltz, the producer who you met yesterday, massive thrill for us, mate. And to be so generous with your time and to say that you can, people can ring me. Mate, I'm going to be bloody... I want them to. I truly, honestly, or text me or message me or whatever. And I just... Mate, my phone just started buzzing. True story, it just started buzzing.
I just saw a message there from Kylie. So, Kylie, thank you for introducing me to these guys. And, it's nice to have some... I can't see it, mate. It's too glary. Yeah, sorry. It's just... it's nice to be able to have people that actually care. It's just, it's good.
Well, you do, mate. You're an inspirational man. And I think what will end up having, the legacy you leave off the track will be even greater than the one you left on. It's been a real treat, mate. To
be honest, I don't want to leave yet. But anyway, if that's what happens, well, it happens.
Mate, well, let's run another thing in short term. Look, Dan's opened the restrictions, so We're going to be looking at running events really, really soon.
Yeah. Let's do some stuff. I'm
Yep.
happy to. Honestly, I would love to do it. I'd love to do it.
This will not be the last time John Bowe, my new friend JB, will be on in and around 100 Words Mate to Mate. I've got a new bestie. So my old bestie, bad luck, get stuff. You're out. I've got a new one.
Later.
JB, you're a star. Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure, mate. See you later.
There, bud.
See you guys.
What an unbelievable man. To say, hey, give out my number and, I want to, help. That's just the character of the man. And as I said, the legacy that this man will leave off the track is far greater than the one he ever will have on the track. And it's guys like him, leaders of their industry. I say this most weeks. Guys like that, leaders of their industry, who put themselves out like that, they're the ones that make the biggest difference. Real treat for me personally and all the team at 100 Words. As I say every week, to Shelley Wood from Splice Communications, she's an amazing lady, does so much for us, does all our comms and all our PR and everything for 100 Words. Thank you, Shelley. To Matt Atkin from Atlas Brokers, does a huge amount for us and his team. So if you need anything to do with your house being refinanced or some plant refinancing, say, ring Matt, tell him TURTS told you to give you a call and he'll look after you. And to my dear friend, Brett Phillips, who runs the only tennis show in this country with Sam Groth, who's a good mate of 100 Words Mate to Mate. He does a huge amount for us and a huge amount for the tennis community. All we try to do here every week is simply show you how easy it is to have a conversation with your mate by starting with this. G'day, mate. How's your day been out of 10? Or, g'day, mate. How's your week been out of 10? It's not hard, and I guarantee you this, it works. On behalf of myself, Matt Walton, who's behind the scenes, does an amazing job for 100 Words. Thank you, Waltsy. Have a great week. I hope it's a 10 out of 10. We'll see you next week. Thanks again.